Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Professor Bruce Oppenheimer from Vanderbilt University. We're talking about the upcoming midterm congressional elections. Dr. Oppenheimer, is the blue wave coming, and how big is it going to be?
I just was at the political science meeting and went to American Political Science Association, went to a panel on political scientists who do forecasting. There were 4 or 5 models presented, all a bit different, forecasting what was going to happen in the House of Representatives. They all said that they were conservative in that they were probably underestimating the size of the wave. The smallest of those had a 25-seat switch to the Democrats. The largest had a 44-seat switch to the Democrats.
And both of those are enough for the Democrats to take over the House.
Yes, and there were more at the 40 level. There were 2 that were 40 and above, 1 in the 30s, 1 in the 20s, using different methods. One of the key things, besides from all they look at, is the seats in play are so overwhelmingly Republican-held seats that's why the Republicans are in so much trouble. Almost all the Democratic-held seats in the House are not in play.
President Trump this week had an interview that said he thinks there's going to be a red wave, that they're going to do well because of the economy and because people like the job that he's doing. Is he being overly optimistic? Might he actually further depress his own vote? People thinking, well, he says we're going to win.
I think there are some places where he can encourage Republicans to turn out, and at least one of the models said this sort of excitement about voting is an important criteria, and thinks that Trump could actually help some Republican candidates. But others see that part of the problem is when he goes somewhere and pushes Republican turnout, by doing so he also pushes Democratic turnout.
Any chance of a change in Tennessee? We're going to have 3 new seats that are going to have new faces in them, but they're all Republican seats, and most people think the Republicans are going to keep their 7-2 majority.
Yes, I think that's, despite none of those seats is in play.
So Tennessee and the nation are not the same, or not mirror images of each other in this case. They're the reverse opposite of each other, maybe in this particular
I'm not sure that the reverse opposite. We have seats which are so heavily one party or another in this state that there aren't any that are close enough to swing.
So the Republicans did a great job in redrawing the districts to maximize their political power when they did that back in the early 2010s.
I think they didn't make any of them so close that they had to worry. On the other hand, you have to realize that part of it, what goes on is, can the weaker party in the state recruit better candidates? Democrats have done a little bit better job this time than previously, but probably not candidates who can threaten any of those Republicans on a first-time election. Looking
on the Senate level, there still seems to be an increasing chance perhaps the Democrats will win, but they almost have to pull off a very, very tough situation to win a lot of states, a lot of seats, either whole states and even win seats in states where President Trump did very well 2 years ago.
It's problematic. Remember, the class of 2018 is the class of 2012 and the class of 2006. Both 2006 and 2012 were very good Democratic years. So that's one thing that comes in play. The second thing, which is helping the Democrats, people talk about the states that Trump won, but the lion's share of these states, these seats, one of the reasons the Democrats have so many of these seats, are in states which are largely safe for Democrats. So there are a lot of seats in the Northeast up and very few seats in the South up.
And there are a lot of the Democrats that are trying to hold seats in what would be Trump-oriented states that are still doing pretty well in the polls, although they're not way ahead, but they're not way behind either.
That's right. And they are evidently good politicians. And again, the Republicans don't necessarily do a good job of selecting the best opponent. And in years where it doesn't look like your party's doing well, it's sometimes hard to get the best people to run. So the question is, have the Republicans in those states, in South Dakota and in Montana and Indiana, chosen good challengers?
All this talk about the Senate being taken back over by the Democrats, doesn't that actually hurt Phil Bredesen? Because Marsha Blackburn's working very hard to remind Republicans that you don't want the Senate to become Democratic again, because if Phil Bredesen's elected, that might happen. And if the national media is saying, yeah, that might happen, won't that motivate Republicans to turn out?
Potentially it could. I think it's something it's an arrow that she has in her quiver. The question is, that one cuts both ways, because it is an indicator that maybe you're afraid that you're going to lose.
Dr. Bruce Oppenheimer from Vanderbilt University is our guest. We're talking about what's coming up in the 2018 midterm elections. They're now about a month away, early voting even more quickly than that. Back to continue our conversation after this break.